So glad to welcome our next guest, Kay Coles James, who in her current role, she's had a lot of big roles. Her current role, she's the head of the Heritage Foundation, based in Washington, but spend a lot of time talking to activists and thinkers across the country. And Ms. James, I'm glad to have you here because I really took note of your work several years ago on this commission that examined the right way to vote to protect the rights of everyone who is a legal citizen to cast a vote and not have the system bastardize that and diminish the value of those votes. As you look at where we stand today, what's your take on what's happened in 2020?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak to a hometown audience.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back.
As soon as I finish my work day today, I will be headed back to Richmond to enjoy the holiday.
Oh, good.
But let me tell you this. Because of what happened in this last election cycle with the national presidential election, the Heritage Foundation has made as one of its top priorities going into 2021, we're not going to take our foot off the pedal. Mm-hmm. It is all in for voter integrity. The American people should never, ever have to go through this again. And I think what's so maddening to me about it is coming out of the 2000 and 2004 elections, Democrats and Republicans came together and formed the commission headed by President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker. And it was a group of both Republican and Democrat leaders, and I had the privilege of serving on that commission. This is one of the reasons I cannot stand commissions, by the way.
Okay.
Because we worked hard to reach consensus and come up with a pathway forward so that the American people could trust the elections. We made recommendations on everything from voter ID, handling mail-in and absentee voting, how to avoid duplicate registrations across state lines, commenting on voting machines and the risks there, mm-hmm. The problems with media getting in front of the process and calling elections. Everything that would have made this election run more smoothly was absolutely and totally ignored. But let the record show that then, way back then, Republicans and Democrats actually reached consensus on these issues. Mm-hmm. And yet today, I just don't know if that's possible. But we're going to try, and we're not letting up. We're going to focus on this like a laser beam.
I had someone email me yesterday when I said that I was prepared to lose an election fair and square, and said, John, the problem is you're stuck in the old mindset where you are willing to lose. And the new brand of political activists, especially on the left, the progressives / socialists, I would say / communists, they're not ready to lose. And I think you could make the argument they will do anything that they possibly can to win. Do you think it's that bad at this stage, or are we just coming off of this election, our sensitivities are high and we're overreacting?
My friend, we are not overreacting. Mm-hmm. It is just that bad. And for all of the millions of Americans who at this point feel like the election was, even if there were not massive voter fraud and that can't be proved and we're losing court cases and all of that, even with all of that, here at the Heritage Foundation, we catalog voter fraud. And we have a database that can show what's going on around the country. Mm-hmm. Those millions of Americans need to have a confidence that when they cast their vote, it matters and it counts. And let me say, that voter suppression is going on, but it's not going on by the right. What happens when people come in and we don't feel like we have the integrity, people are voting who shouldn't be voting, laws are not enforced, and sometimes governors and legislators are making it up as they go, that suppresses the right of the American citizen who does it all correctly, who registers, who presents ID, who goes in. Their votes are canceled. So we have to go through in the next. It starts now. We're not waiting for the next election cycle to start making noise about this and to start trying to get this correctly. It starts now, and I am going to be speaking out and very engaged in this battle. And I defy anyone to say that the reason I'm doing it is because I want to suppress someone's legitimate right to vote. There are too many people who have fought and died to protect that right and give us that privilege. And I intend to honor that by making sure that every legal vote is counted and that every illegal or inappropriate vote is not.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you bring up the database. Hans von Spakovsky with your group has been on several times over the last 2 years warning about this. And I've appreciated that because he's one of the few people from any national organization who has been sounding the alarm bells. So you're absolutely right. Heritage has been on the front lines of that. When you look at the specific allegations related to this election, is there anything objectively that you can say, yes, that is wrong, that is clearly fraud, that could have, and the end question I guess here is that could have swayed the election for Joe Biden? I mean, this story about the machines, the Dominion machines, the vote harvesting where presumably individuals took ballots and filled them out on behalf of the voter, but the voter themselves didn't cast the vote, and then they just dumped them in the mail without a signature. Is any of that verifiable?
Well, much of that is verifiable. The issue is that when someone sees this, observes this kind of behavior, it calls into question the legitimacy of all the votes, because if you see that much, then what is going on that we don't see, that we didn't catch? And so I think it is the composite of all those stories that we have collected from all over the country which causes the election to be brought into question. First of all, I want a fair fight, and I want to win. And I believe that the ideas that we have as conservatives can prevail. I don't need to try to suppress the vote. I don't need to try to monkey around with machines or get people who are not qualified to vote to win. I believe that we can win on the basis of our ideas in a fair fight. The problem is the fight isn't fair. Yeah. And it isn't fair not only because of what we see with voter integrity, but I don't know if you've seen that study that just came out from the Media Research Center. One of the issues that we must address is the media and how they call elections ahead of time and how they influence elections by the stories that they tell and the stories that they ignore.